In the women's camp at Auschwitz, there was one name that could empty the blood from a prisoner's face. The name was Josef Mengele. The doctor Gisela Pearl, who survived that camp, described the terror his presence carried, the way prisoners froze when he walked the rows. Yet, the children in his barracks called him uncle. He brought them sweets, he learned their names, he was gentle with them. Because the man they trusted was building something, and every one of those children was an experimental subject. Every transport that pulled into the Birkenau met a doctor waiting on the platform. A flick of the hand, left or right, life or the gas chamber. But Mengele wasn't only sorting the living from the dead. He was shopping. He ideally wanted twins, and when the order went down the ramp, families were torn apart in seconds. Two little girls, Eva and Miriam Moses, were pulled from their mother on that platform. They never saw her again. Others like Irene and Renee Gutman were already inside when he found them. All of them ended up in the same place, a special block the prisoners came to know as the Twin Barracks. And what happened in there is the reason the world still says his name in a whisper. However, here's what makes Mengele different from the other monsters of that place. He didn't scream. He didn't need to. Another prisoner doctor who worked under him remembered how sweet he was to the children. The chocolate, the soft voice, the games. That was the mask. That was how you keep a child calm enough to study. Because behind the sweet, the numbers were staggering. As many as 3,000 twins passed through his experiments. And once the camp was liberated, only around 200 were still alive. And to understand what he did to the other 2,800, you have to understand what he thought he was proving. He treated the twins like a matched set. One child the test, the other the control. First came measurement. Every dimension of their bodies were recorded over and over for days on end. Then it escalated. He drew blood in enormous quantities and transfused the blood of one twin into the other, just to watch what happened. He injected chemicals directly into children's eyes, trying to force them to turn blue, the correct color. It blinded some, it killed others. He deliberately infected one twin with disease to see how the other would react. He performed surgeries, amputations, operations without any anesthetics. And when a twin died, the other was often killed too, on the same day so their organs could be laid side by side and compared. But here's the part that turns this from a horror story into an expose. Mengele wasn't doing this all alone in the dark. He was shipping his results back to Berlin to a respected scientist named Ottmar von Verschuer at one of Germany's most prestigious research institutes. Eyes, blood, organs packed in crates and sent off. Some were labeled war materials, urgent. So the obvious question we all have is why? Why does a trained doctor do this and call it science? The answer is ideology. Mengele believed that so-called inferior races, and above all Jewish people, carried negative traits in their very biology, and that the so-called Aryan master race carried the good ones. Let's be clear about what that was. The Aryan race was a pseudo-scientific fantasy, a myth that claimed a superior people descended from ancient Proto-Indo-Europeans. This may or may not be true, but the Nazis twisted it into justification for supremacy and mass murder. There was literally no science under it. But Mengele's job was to go find some science behind it. His real objective was chillingly specific, to identify physical and biochemical markers, something in the blood or in the eyes that could definitively label a person as belonging to a race. Because if you could prove that with the test, you could preserve the master race and you could identify and destroy everyone else with the stamp of science on it. That's what the eyes were for. That's what the blood was for. The children were raw material for a machine designed to justify genocide. And when that machine collapsed, the man behind it simply walked away. January 1945, 10 days before the Soviets reached Auschwitz, Mengele and his fellow SS men slipped out to the west. He kept moving, first to the Gross-Rosen camp, then fleeing again as the Red Army closed in, this time falling in with a retreating German military unit. And that unit surrendered to the Americans. Josef Mengele, the angel of death, was in United States custody. And they let him go. No SS blood group tattoo on his arm, chaos everywhere. His name was on a wanted list the Americans never checked. And so, they released him. For 4 years, one of the most wanted men on earth hid in plain sight. Under the false name Fritz Holman, he worked as a farmhand in a Bavarian village near Rosenheim, milking cows, stacking hay. And back home in Gunsberg, his wealthy family, owners of a farm machinery firm, quietly kept him alive. And by now, the Americans had realized who Mengele really was, and they came looking. So what did the family do? They said, he's already dead. And the investigators believed it. The hunt stopped. And in July 1949, Mengele deemed Germany to be too much of a risk. So with his Red Cross passport issued in Genoa under yet another fake name, Mengele boarded a ship for Argentina. He'd escaped the ruins of the Reich. Now watch how comfortable he got. This is the part that should really make your skin crawl. By 1956, Mengele felt so safe in Argentina that he did something no fugitive should ever do. He simply walked into the West German embassy in Buenos Aires and asked for his real birth certificate and started living under his own name again, Josef Mengele, out in the open. But little did he know, the walls were about to start crumbling. In 1959, he learned West German prosecutors had traced him to Argentina and wanted him arrested. So he fled to Paraguay and grabbed citizenship there. Then, May 1960, Israeli agents snatched Adolf Eichmann off a street in Buenos Aires. Mengele understood exactly what it meant. If they came for Eichmann, they were coming for him. That same day, Israel learned Egypt was building missiles with German scientists. The Mossad chief pulled everyone off. A later director sent a memo telling his agents to stop chasing ghosts from the past. So Mengele lived. No trial, no cell, no reckoning.